You guys have been like the longest cliffhanger ever. I mean, whew. God, I could never do this to you guys ever again. But I have 3 chapters already for you. I have just been on the biggest writer's block for this, and finally just got it back up. But seriously, I have 4 chapters in a week. Yippee! So I do want to ask you guys if you want me to keep you posted on this, or go with the Goddess Tuga and God of War Kirishima. But that's your guys' opinion, not mine. So I want you guys' opinion before I start. But anyways, I love you all so much, and let's get on. Sorry for the long intro, but here is our warnings for this, because there are some. The warnings are blood and self-harm and death. But anyways, let's get on. I wonder why you called me here. For you hate me so badly. You were in front of Yaba. You had been smiling as you drank your tea. Well, I wish we, as being both women, could work together. You smiled, placing your teacup down. Yaba had preferred a straw to drink from hers. I wish we could throw everything behind, change and work things out. You smiled, and she only nodded, taking a sip. Well, in that case, we must talk about Kai. You hummed, wondering why she wants to talk about him. After you and him went to the Emperor and Empress, he has not responded to my letters, and he hasn't even stayed with the deal. She huffed. Well, I don't even know what your deal was, so I don't get it. He sighed. Well, I thought you were his wife. She then chuckled. I wonder if that new mistress is his, instead of fucking you. She laughed, like a witch. It's because I'm pregnant. You spoke, and she looked at you dumbfounded. You actually are. She looked like she was about to laugh. And when you realized the new mistress she was talking about was Suzumi. I remember him saying how humans were so gross and vile. She huffed. Well, I'm not just human now. You swear you could feel a vein pop from your forehead. She took a sip of her tea again. It was time. Well, Lady Yaba, I'm glad we got to talk one more time. You smiled, and she looked at you, confused, before it took effect. She fell to the floor. What did you? She spat, holding her throat. Her voice was raspy. I wouldn't talk if I were you. You giggled, kneeling down to her. Kai and I are happy together. Hell, he allowed me to do this to you. He wanted to get rid of you so badly. You giggled, holding your chin. And this is what you get for killing my baby. Mocking me? And next is your grandson. You got up and walked away before running. Someone help! Someone poisoned Lady Yaba! You yelled as others came to help her. But it was far too late. The last thing she saw before she died was your wicked smile being poorly covered by your sleeve. You turned and walked away, running past you as they went to help her. You got to the office to see Kai. I'll deal with the paperwork. You smiled, sitting next to him. He wrapped an arm around you, holding you close. Your plan worked? He said. Oh, yes. You smiled as you cuddled into him. Next is your grandson? He asked. Yes, since he technically put the poison in my food. You smiled. His hand then planted on your cheek and to make you look at him. And how dare he touch your perfect self? You couldn't tell, but he was smiling, and then placed a kiss on you. You just giggled. Maybe it was because you were pregnant, but you kind of liked the compliment. I hope, she screams. He just stared at you. But she did. You giggled. You just calmly stayed there until the news got to you two. You looked at the messenger. They were pale when he saw you two, both of your faces giving off a deadly glare. Lady Yaba of the Motamo house has been poisoned and has sadly died. He was bowing. We know, Kai said, continuing to work. My lord, aren't you concerned about this? He asked. You were looking at the causes. The man went pale when he realized that the two sitting before him did it and planned all of it. But sadly, the man was never seen again after this news. After your weeks had gone well, nothing that made you concern over. The three protecting you from anyone. Thanks to Suzumi, no one had to eat anything that might have been poisoned, and if you were right, it was around late November, early December when you did it again. So that means you would be expecting somewhat between August and September. You had now been close to 4 months. Your belly showing, but you hated it. And this pregnancy was much more different than the last one. And you couldn't quite put it. But some of your summer kimonos didn't fit you well anymore. So for a couple days, you had to wear your winter kimonos, which you should know, which would make you a lot hotter than the summer ones. But not long after, Kai came home with a box for you. What is this? You giggled as you were brought to your room. I got you something. He smiled. You sat down and moved the box to you. You took the lid and opened it to reveal many beautiful summer kimonos, all different colors. Reds, pinks, yellows, and blues. Kai. You began to tear, wiping away the tears. God, thank you. You smiled as you moved the box over to hug him and kiss him. You had quickly put them on. Kai had eventually left due to something, but you didn't really care right now. You had looked at yourself in the vanity with your favorite kimono he had gotten you. You loved it, and you had been giddy. You got up and, well, got your paint and everything. You hadn't painted in some time because of everything you wanted to do. That was when Yona walked in. Yen, Haru is going out to get some things, and Suzumi is doing what she normally does. She sat down beside you. That's good, but there's something on my mind. You painted? Huh? Why? She tilted her head. Well, before I got back here, I was at a wedding, and I'm just wondering who survived. If they did. You put down the paint, realizing that you didn't even paint anything, and looked at Yona. Her face was full of confusion. See, I went back to my normal life, but then Kai showed up and took me back. When doing that, he brought friends. She then understood what you meant. Sorry for bringing down your mood, but most likely they didn't. You rubbed your temples. You then got up. I'm sorry, I need a walk. You walked out of your room, leaving her to her own things. She was worried for your well-being. Being pregnant could bring down your health if you got worried about something, even the smallest of things. As you walked, you thought of what the hell had happened to your family. Did they live or die? How many people had died just for you to be here now? You felt bad. You then halted. Why do these halls look so familiar? You followed your gut, having it take you away of many of the workers. The once lively halls was now dead. Until you turned a corner and saw the room. The torii gate there. You could feel the power through your veins. You went to touch it, but a hand grabbed your arm. You looked to see Kai. What are you doing? He asked in his dark tone. Sorry, I was just walking around and saw this. I promised I wasn't going to leave. You kind of panicked, but he was quiet. I was just wondering how my family was. You understand, right? You backed away, and he only sighed, rubbing his eyes. Yen, I will make a deal with you. You looked up to him, confused. Our temple out in your world is, he paused, disgusting. I could puke if I go back there. He sighed once again. If you can get people to fix and clean this place up, I'll let you go freely whenever you want to see your family. You gasped, shocked at his offer. What do you mean? I thought you never wanted me there. You looked at him. I want the temple to be fixed, and I see your health has declined slowly after I brought you back. He grabbed your hair and took it into his hands. You could now tell the ends of your hair had been slightly split, really badly. Some of your hair wasn't even brushed well. Your nails had been broken, chipped, or even bitten. But you could swear you weren't like this when you woke up. Wait, was it just your point of view? Your view must be way different from the others. Tears had started to stream down your cheeks. How could you let yourself go like this? You could feel Kai touch your cheek, wiping away the tears. I'll go with you. Tomorrow we can go. He walked away, but not only before kissing your forehead. After some time you left, wanting to fix yourself, going to your room and grabbing a nail file and, brushing your hair. What? Knife? Sorry. You then went to take a bath. Oh, sorry, I now know. Filing your nails, brushing out the tangles in your hair with the hard ones you had to cut. It had gotten to a point where your hair looked shabby, so you had just cut it down to its normal length before coming here. You didn't care what the others said. You would just say that it would make birth-giving easier. You look in the mirror that was in the bath that you had asked for, seeing that you looked like your normal self. Good. He smiled, looking at all your hard work. You then saw all the hair you lost. You didn't want to grow it back, but sadly you probably had to. You looked at your nails. You did them. They were nice. You then washed your hair, cleaning everything that was in it, and then dried off and putting a silk nightgown that was ready for you. You walked back to your room and was ready for bed. Kai had been there, reading a book. He then looked at you, putting the book down. I went to take care of myself. I didn't even see that I was not taking care of myself. You sat in your spot. He placed his book down and you cuddled into him, his arms wrapped around you. So, I have a question to ask. You trailed off, and you heard him hum. Why do you wish to go to my world? You asked as he started to comb through your hair. Well, as you know, the temple is falling apart, and if the human world's temple is fixed, and people come to offer, then our temple will be risen again. He paused. For you to see your parents as well. You got up. Wait, they're alive? You asked. Why would I let them die? He asked. You trailed off. You took so much from me, and you were cut off by Kai brushing back some of the hair that was in your face. You belong to me, and why would I let anyone touch you? He tilted his head. You're already lucky I'm bringing you back to the human world. He held your chin. You looked down and nodded. All right. You looked back up. He was right. He was letting you go to your world, but you weren't going to lie. You didn't want to stay there in that world. But I never want to leave you. You blushed, not realizing what you were saying at first. He then chuckled, holding your cheek. It was soft and loving. He brought you into his chest, combing your hair, your eyes falling shut as he held onto you. Just the way he combed through your hair, it relaxed you, like your mother trying to put you to bed as a kid. He smiled as he fell asleep. The next day, you took a breath. You stood, waiting Kai from doing what he needed to do before going. Holding your hand to your belly, you were thinking of two people. What would your parents do if they were alive? Yes, you loved your parents dearly, but there was something in you that was ringing a bell. That was when you heard his footsteps behind you. Are you ready? He asked as he stood beside you. Yeah. You held your hands. All right. He sighed, taking something out of his sleeve. It was a knife. Fresh, clean. Oh, we're not going to do what I think. You looked at the knife in his hand. Of course. Why do you think it's red? he asked. He then walked up to the Torii gate. Remember why we're going? He spoke, and you nodded. For the sake of the shrine. You mumbled to yourself, which he heard. You then watched as he placed the knife by his wrist, slitting it and turning his arm, to watch as the blood fell into the floor and seeped into the floorboards. He then gave you the bloody knife and walked into the Torii gate. With that, he vanished, like a ghost. You looked down at the knife, then at the Torii gate. Were you actually going to cut yourself? You had to make your decision quickly. You walked to the Torii gate and looked down to where his blood seeped into the wood. You closed your eyes and cut your wrist. You winced in pain, then opened your eyes to see the blood coming from the cut. So you turned your arm for the blood to drip into the same spot. You felt the room shift. You looked behind you to see. Nothing. The door was gone. So you looked back and walked through the Torii gate. It was the same as when you got here. So you did the same. It's blinding light, making you not know where you were going, but still that voice helping you. Walking forward and closer, you closed your eyes from the brightness until the light faded to see the old run-down shrine. You looked over to see it was nighttime, falling leaves from the trees. Wait, was it fall here? But the last time you were here, it was the same season. You looked at Kai, his fingers looking at the dust on the drawer. This place is worse than the last time. He spoke, walking to the hallway. You frowned. Do you know what day it is? You asked. No, but as you already saw, it looks like autumn. He spoke. The two of you are going to the entrance, seeing the garden worse than it looked. Kai walked over to the dried plants. Stop. You could hear a whisper. You look around to see where it came from. What? You looked at Kai. He had stopped to see what you were doing. I thought I heard something. You walked over to his side. I guess it was just the wind? I hope. You sighed, both of you walking to the gate. Without any effort, the gate was opened by Kai, both of you walking out onto the pavement. You looked back for a moment, and you could swear you could see some color, but you looked back. You had something to do. Though as you walked, you looked at your wrist again. It looked like nothing had happened to it, but you weren't going to dwell on it. You had something to do, some people to see, but you swear, you will make sure Yona, Haru, Suzumi, and Eri have a much more happy life than now with what you're planning on doing. One where you don't have to hide it from them. So you walk with Kai, nervous to see your parents. Are they okay? What are they going to think? But as you walked, it started to feel familiar. The streets, signs, plants, and everything else. That's when you looked up. You're home. You stopped, thinking of your next words, actions, and everything else. Kai had stopped right beside you. We can go when you want to. He spoke, to which you sighed, just standing there. I have to go, to get it over with. You smiled at him, both you walking to the house, standing right at the front door. You then knocked, hearing footsteps coming from inside. You waited for the door to open, and once it did, you saw your mother. Her arm looked burnt, and tears rolled down her cheeks. Her hands came up to her mouth. My Yin. She walked up to you, hugging you hugging her back. Where have you been? She asked as she pulled away. That was when she looked back. You. She moved in front of you, face to face with Kai. Your eyes were narrowed. Oh, her eyes were narrowed. What the hell do you think you're doing with my daughter? She spat. Did you brainwash my daughter? She pointed at him. I did nothing. All I did was took what's mine. He looked down at her. What is yours? She's 17, thanks to you. She spat. You took her away from me 2 years. What the hell? Mom, you intervened. No, hun. She looked back. No, Mom, please, listen to me. You walked between the two. Mom, please let me explain. Yes, he took me, but I feel so much more like at home there. Tears had started to run down your face. Here, so many people don't like me here. But there, I feel like I can do so much more. I've done so much more that I wouldn't be able to do here. Tears had begun to fall down your cheeks, but really, they had been falling this whole time. Your mother's face first was filled with anger and was now filled with sadness. Your mom sighed as she wiped away the tears on your face. I'm sorry for not letting you talk. She then kissed your forehead. She then looked at Kai. So what do you want from me? She asked, her hands on her hips. Mom, we would like your help with the shrine. You know, the one on address. You smiled as she looked at you. Fine, come in. She opened the door to where you two could come in. That was when you noticed something. Hey, Mom, where's Dad? You asked. Your mom had walked to the kitchen to make something. He's asleep. After the wedding, he was worse than me, so was sent to the hospital. But he's fine now. Asleep. She poured some water into a kettle. What tea do you want? She looked at Kai. My taste would be too expensive for you. He spoke, sitting next to you. Oh, what? You think we're broke? Your mom spat. Fine. I'm going to butcher the name of this tea, but Dang Hong Po. You and your mom's face froze. Dang Hong Po? Known for the drink to be in the Ming Dynasty, aka 1368 to 1644, but this drink was probably the most expensive you've ever heard in your life. It was 377,964 yen, or approximately $2,400 per cup. Just kidding, the tea was hard. I'm sorry, but we don't own that tea, your mother spoke. Fine, I'll take what Yin usually takes, he sighed. Your mom doing so, coming to sit opposite from you. So, you want my help with the shrine? She asked. You nodded. We need it cleaned up and have people come to it here and there, you spoke. All right, I'll help on one condition. Your face lines up. I get to see my daughter once in a while. Your mom got up when the kettle was ready, pouring all the tea and giving it to you. And I will not be lying. You two need a good reason on why people should be at your shrine. It has been dead for years, so don't blame me when people don't show up. She then sat down. So, does that make it clear? She asked. Yes. Kai then took a sip of his tea. Also, Mom, what day is it? You asked. What? Do you guys not have the same time? She asked. Well, it was, and now it's different. You looked up. It's October 31st. Your eyes shot wide, your teacup dropping. Both Kai and your mom got worried. So it wasn't just me. You spoke, scared. What do you mean? Kai asked. You grabbed Kai's sleeve. Someone went to the shrine. They're going to do the same thing they did as me. Your mom looked worried, to which Kai got up. If so, I'll leave this to you. He walked to the front door and opened it. Sorry for my abrupt exit. He then left. You didn't want another person to be in your state. Or hell, even worse.